a teen comedy with science fiction.
Better not hook up to the amplifier. There's a slight possibility of overload.
A mad scientist, a time-traveling car,
Hey, if I know too much about my own future, I can endanger my own existence, just as you've endangered yours.
a cowardly father,
Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think McFly.
a mother in love with her son, and yet, this film is considered by many to be the most precise narrative work to come out of Hollywood. There are no unnecessary scenes, there is no empty dialogue, everything connects, everything serves a purpose. Back to the Future, the perfect movie. When you think of Back to the Future, the first thing that comes to mind is a time-traveling DeLorean, a scientist with mop-top hair, and a teenager kissing his mother. Yes, that last part is still weird no matter how many times you watch the movie. But if we scratch beneath the surface, we discover that the real strength of this story lies not in time travel, but in our relationship with our parents and the fear of repeating their mistakes. The central theme revolves around identity and the possibility of changing our destiny. Marty sees his father as a failure, his mother as a frustrated woman, and his family as a lost cause. And Marty is afraid of becoming a failure like his whole family, but more specifically, like his father. In fact, there are several moments in the story when Marty and his father find themselves in the same situations. For example, when Marty questions his musical ability.
What if I send in the tape and they don't like it? I mean, what if they say I'm no good? What if they say, get out of here, kid, you got no future? I mean, I just don't think I can take that kind of rejection.
And in the past, his father questions his writing abilities.
What if they didn't like them? What if they told me I was no good?
When the principal scolds Marty and then scolds his father in the same way in the past.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker. You remind me of your father when he went here. He was a slacker, too.
You're a slacker. Do you want to be a slacker for the rest of your life?
All of this builds up in your mind and Marty's that his destiny is to become his father, until Marty begins to change the past and not only changes his father's destiny, but also learns from his mistakes and undergoes a personal transformation.
I wanted to tell you that it's been educational.
Even that argument with the principal has a payoff, a reward at the end, since the whole argument is about them being failures, and in the end, well, Marty changes the future and proves the opposite.
No McFly ever amounted to anything in the history of Hill Valley.
Yeah, well, history is gonna change.
Some people consider Marty a static character, and I understand that reasoning, but in my opinion, there is a change in Marty. Anyway, I'll open the discussion below in the comments. Another key theme is the weight of our decisions, even the smallest ones. What happens if you don't ask someone to the dance? What happens if you advise someone to run for mayor? The movie is full of those moments where a seemingly silly action changes the entire course of the future. What could have been just a comedy with time paradoxes becomes a disguised essay on how our choices build the world we inhabit. Talking about the tone of Back to the Future is like talking about the perfect balance in a secret recipe. It has a spoonful of comedy, a pinch of tension, a good dash of adventure, and a drop of romance, but everything in just the right measure. The film never takes itself too seriously, but it also doesn't fall into cheap parody. One of its great merits is that the film never takes you out of the emotional journey by inserting an out-of-place joke. When Marty discovers that his mother has fallen in love with him, the humor is there, of course, but we also feel the character's confusion. And when George McFly summons the courage to confront Biff, we celebrate because the tone has prepared us to feel that this moment is epic. Well, the editing also helps, but I'll talk more about the editing later. There is a curious fact that reflects this obsession with tone. Marty was going to be played by Eric Stoltz, but Stoltz's performances were very serious, so they decided to replace him with Michael J. Fox. Mind you, Stoltz didn't act badly, but his acting style is more serious, while Michael J. Fox managed to strike a lighter tone. I have a video talking about the tone of the film, and in it I explain that all the actors have to follow the same tonal language. So, with that in mind, imagine how the interaction between Doc, who is a more eccentric and exaggerated character, and Stoltz, an actor who takes everything seriously, would be. It would be very strange and disjointed. Or even the scene where Marty's mother kisses him. Having your mother madly in love with you is already very tense, but Michael J. Fox's performance made the whole situation lighter. Now, if you put Stoltz in that scene, everyone would probably be horrified, and it would ruin the movie, especially since it's a 1985 movie and people's mindsets were more conservative back then. Back to the Future also achieved something very difficult. It's a movie for all audiences without being childish. There are jokes that adults understand,
And he can sleep in my room.
I gotta go.
adventures that children enjoy, and references that age better than many of the fads of the 1980s. The tone also acts as a safety net for the craziest part of the story. Let's see. You have a car that travels through time, a scientist who creates unimaginable things, and a giant clock that needs a perfectly timed lightning strike. But you believe it. Why? Because the tone tells you, relax. We're not here to explain quantum physics, and we're here to have fun. The script for Back to the Future is simply perfect, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Tarantino and many others consider it perfect.
Should know I didn't.
Back to the Future is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
A perfect movie.
Even today, this script is studied in some American film schools, and the worst part is that it's a script about time travel, which makes it even more complicated. But what makes this script considered perfect? Each scene fits with the previous one, each dialogue has a function, and each seemingly harmless object, such as a watch or a brand of underwear, ends up being relevant. It's the kind of script that leaves nothing to chance, and that's the beauty of it. It seems spontaneous, but it's measured down to the millimeter. First, I'll talk about payoffs, which are basically things that the script plants for you to reap later on. Little phrases like the classic,
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
are not only repeated, meaning they have a payoff or reward later on,
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
but they are also basically the theme of identity and overcoming adversity that I mentioned earlier.
Like I've always told you, you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
There are several examples like this. The argument with the principal is not only an empty payoff, but it reinforces that Marty was destined to be like his father, or when Biff bullies his father in the same way in 1985,
Hello, anybody home? Huh? Think, McFly. Think.
and in the cafeteria in 1955.
Hello, anybody home? Hey, think, McFly. Think.
It's not just a payoff for the sake of it, but it's telling Marty and us, the viewers, that his father was always a failure, and then when Marty changes the future and his father is now successful, that scene is essential to understanding his father's overcoming by defeating Biff, a guy who tormented him since childhood, returning to the theme of identity and overcoming. The story of how Marty's parents met is crucial to moving the story forward and transforming the characters.
Anyway, your grandpa hit him with the car and brought him into the house. He seemed so helpless. Like a little lost puppy. And my heart just went out.
But it also demonstrates the family dynamic. The signatures to save the clock tower are crucial to the whole plot. The woman gives Marty the paper, but look at the obsession with detail in the script. Why would Marty keep that pamphlet? Was he really interested in saving the tower? No, he kept it because his girlfriend left her number written on the back, and because of that, Marty keeps it and takes it back to the past, and it is key to solving the lack of plutonium in the DeLorean. There are so many well-constructed payoffs that it's hard to believe. Even small things like the pine tree Marty throws in the past when he returns the mall has changed its name, or the Toyota, which is mentioned on the radio in the opening scene.
Statler Toyota is making the best deals of the year on all 1985 model Toyotas. You won't find a better car.
Marty's reward for changing the future. Everything is so well tied together that I could talk about the payoffs for 40 minutes. Nothing here is said just because. Everything has a purpose, a consequence, and a reward. One of the great tricks of Back to the Future is that it explains what you need to understand everything, but never bores you with explanations. How does the DeLorean travel through time? Plutonium plus 140 kilometers per hour plus flux capacitor? What happens if you change the past? You disappear. What about quantum physics?
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Instead of overwhelming you with complicated rules, the film gives you just enough to get you into the game and keep you going. What's more, the narrative tension rises steadily and deliciously. Every time it seems like Marty has everything under control, something new gets in the way. Doc dies. He gets stuck in 1955. His mother falls in love with him, and the entire final scene, which I will mention in the editing section. It's like watching a series of small disasters in a chain reaction.
Every single episode is nothing but dismay.
Another masterful point is that every little victory or failure has consequences. Marty not only has to return to the future, but also fix his parents' romance, save his own existence, and along the way, help Doc avoid being shot by Libyans. Everything is intertwined. You can't remove one piece without the whole tower collapsing. Best of all, the pace never lets up. There are no lulls in energy, no yawn-inducing moments, no dead minutes. Even the quiet scenes, like Marty teaching George how to ask Lorraine out, have weight and meaning in the plot. It's as if the film knows exactly how long it can let you breathe before throwing another complication at you. And since we're talking about pace, we have to talk about editing, and I'll explain a little about photography and production design. I want to go back to the opening scene where Marty goes to see Doc at his house. The film begins by showing several clocks in Doc's house, already revealing his obsession with time, while the camera moves to show more things like the radio talking about the Toyota, the news about the stolen plutonium, and a bunch of Doc's crazy experiments to show that he's a mad genius. There are even some inventions that don't work well, like the toaster or Einstein's food machine, which gives us the idea that he's a scientist who experiments with various things. Marty even arrives on his skateboard and goes straight to play the guitar on the big speaker to show Marty's cool personality, but also to introduce his passion for music, which will ultimately be essential to the plot. I wanted to combine editing, photography, and production design because I think they are very connected. In relation to production design, they were responsible for putting every little detail we see on screen. They are the ones who build and design the sets. In relation to photography, the blocking is brutal. I already mentioned blocking in the Tarantino video, but in short, it's how the composition of your image flows, the camera movement, and the actor's movement. Here, the camera doesn't move without a reason. The shots are static until the story or the emotion you want to convey requires another angle, so the camera only moves if there is a reason. I relate this to editing because in editing there is something called motivated cuts, and this will explain a little bit what I meant before. For a film to be well edited, one of the requirements is that the cuts you make in the film have some intention, which is why they are called motivated cuts, because there is a motive, a reason behind each cut. Let's take the final scene at the clock tower when Doc is trying to connect the cable. Doc looks at where the cable needs to be placed, then there's a cut so you can see where it needs to go, then cut to Doc moving. A cut motivated by the character's action, then a cut to the foot bumping to show the height and create tension, then cut to Doc's face to show fear and increase tension, then cut to Marty and the car not working. And the editing alternates between Marty's problems and Doc's, all to increase the tension of the scene. This is a small example to show you the issue of motivated cuts. The entire film is constructed with motivated cuts, and I relate that to photography because the blocking I mentioned earlier serves almost as if it were those motivated cuts. The camera only starts to move because there is a narrative or emotional motivation, as I mentioned in the motivated cuts. And just to give an example example of unmotivated cuts, just kidding, they're not called that, but to give examples of empty and meaningless cuts. Let's take the movie Queen, this Marvel that won the Oscar for Best Editing. Guys, this movie won the Oscar for Best Editing.
And here are the nominees for achievement in film editing. The Oscar goes to Bohemian Rhapsody, John Ottman.
I liked the movie, I'm a big Queen fan, but winning Best Editing is a bit much. But anyway, let's take the scene where they're talking to the producer. While they're talking, there are 1,000 cuts to the faces of the people there. Cut to the producer, cut to Queen, cut to the Grinch. It makes no sense. It even gives me a headache. Like if there's a conversation, you don't always have to focus on the face of the person who's talking. Sometimes what matters is how the person who's listening reacts, and you have to intersperse this so that it's organic.
So anyway, George, about Lorraine. She really likes you. She told me to tell you that she wants you to ask her to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Really?
Look at the Queen scene and tell me if those cuts have anything to do with what I've been talking about. It's just awful.
Look, I admire your enthusiasm. If it goes well, if it happens, I've got a promotional tour of Japan in mind.
We'll want more.
Every band wants more.
Every band's not Queen.
And to give a quick example, in the movie Taken 3, when the protagonist jumps over the fence, notice those crazy cuts. Yes, that's the original scene. To me, that scene would only need 3 or 4 cuts at most. And moving on to the music, I won't say much here, simply that the theme is iconic. And one curious thing is that the music is also telling you a story. It's also motivational music. In this movie, they drank energy drinks for breakfast. It's not possible. They're all motivated. Take, for example, the scene just before Marty travels through time, when the Libyans arrive more specifically. You see the music gradually increasing the tension as the Lebanese approach it. And just when they point their guns at Doc, the music slows down to create tension. And suddenly, they shoot him and he dies. Then the same situation happens with Marty. The music slows down just as the van stops and points at Marty. All the music is designed for the emotion of each scene and each cut. If you keep watching the scene, you'll see how the music rises or falls in intensity, and sometimes even changes tone depending on what's happening on screen. In this case, I've focused on analyzing one specific film. But if you want to know more about cinema, I made a video explaining Tarantino's entire filmography, where I explain his way of directing and creating unforgettable films.